Hey guys, real quick, only 40% of our viewers are actually subscribed, so let's change that right now. Hit that subscribe button right below.
What?
Atlanta Falcons at the Indianapolis Colts. Colts are favored by 6.5 here. It's Sunday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern here. Over-under is 48.5 from FanDuel. 7-2 Colts coming off there. Lost last week against the Steelers. And Falcons, man, they got to save their season at this point. They're getting into trouble territory as they're now 3-5.
Desperation mode, yeah. I mean, this becomes one of the most confusing games to try and predict. You've got the Colts coming off their first real, complete letdown game where the offense turned the ball over 6 times, where they just got straight up beaten in a game they were supposed to win, going up against Atlanta, who I think is the most confusing team in the NFL, where they've put Josh Allen in hell, but they've had games where they got carved up. Like, I don't know what to make about from either of these teams, and it's in Germany to make it even more confusing.
It's outdoors in Germany for a couple dome teams.
In the morning.
It's
just chaos.
So much chaos here. A couple things to keep an eye on. We talked a lot yesterday about, obviously, the Colts trading for Sauce Gardner. Again, I'm assuming he's just going to go to Germany and play football this weekend. They're playing a decent amount of man coverage. They're not, you wouldn't say they're definitely a man team or a zone team. That's Lou Anarumo. He mixes it up. He's game plan oriented. When you see, so what I think is going to be really big for Indy's defense here, when you see quarterbacks who have high pressure rates after a game and everything, I always say it's not just the pass rush, that's the coverage, right? That's, if you take away read 1, read 2, pressure rate goes way up. And that is what I think Sauce Gardner brings to the table for Indy. I think if he forces a quarterback to hold the ball just an extra beat because he's long and just doesn't give up a ton of separation in the pass game, if that's an extra beat for Laiatu Latu, for DeForest Buckner, for Kwity Paye, and that pass rush, which I think is fine. It's a good pass rush from Indy. They're not necessarily dominant, but man, I think Sauce Gardner has a chance to really elevate that defense because they've got good players at every level. And so I don't know if it's going to hit this week, but it is a huge factor, I think, for Indy going forward. And then you look at Michael Penix when he's pressured, 5.1 yards per play from our friends over at 33rd Team, our crack research team here. 25th in yards per play, 8th in ADOT, so he's still throwing the ball down the field a lot, trying to make big plays, but only 20th in success rate. He's much better from a clean pocket relative to the rest of the league. So it's a huge factor, I think, in this game. If Sauce just creates a couple more, just a little bit more indecision, and then would they use him against Drake London, who's also just high volume? That's when this offense is moving the ball and cooking. It's when they're feeding Drake London and Bijan's, getting his. But Drake London, obviously coming off his huge game against the Patriots, we've seen Sauce Gardner do a little bit of tracking. That could be an awesome matchup in this one.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. We've made this point in reverse with Patrick Surtain in Denver when he got injured. How much does that affect the pass rush? It's an interconnected relationship there. Sauce Gardner won't just help the Indy secondary, but he'll probably help the pass rush as well. Judah Fortang at PFF had an interesting chart that's got PFF separation and targets per coverage snap, essentially. And Sauce Gardner is not quite in the Aaron Donald world of his own weird, anomalous data point relative to everybody else, but he is by far the best corner in the NFL this year in terms of average separation allowed, which is what we've been saying, right? This guy is usually in your hip pocket. And he's relatively not targeted. Like, he allows a lower, he's targeted less often, than your regular corner. So, I mean, these are examples of what you're talking about. He's tight coverage, and teams generally don't go after him because of that. That is forcing hesitation in the quarterback. It's forcing you to go to a different read. It's forcing all these things which help pass rush.
Yeah, I think he's been really good, Sauce, in a lot of those, like year after year in those metrics for PFF. So again, it doesn't show up in interception totals. He's definitely given up a few more explosive plays this year, the last couple of years versus early in his career. But overall, for Lou Anarumo, who again will mix it up, doesn't have a certain style, right? Certain coaches, you're like, oh, Fangio, quarters, too high shell guy, or Pete Carroll, Seattle 3. Like, there's not a style to Lou. Right. It could be week to week, game to game, half to half. I can't wait to see how they put that all together. So I think that's a huge addition for the Colts. Creates new challenges for the Falcons. Falcons at their best, like I said, they're feeding Drake London. They're getting the run game going with Bijan Robinson. They have not had that these last few weeks. Teams have done a much better job stopping the run in Atlanta. You have Penix being very inconsistent with his accuracy.
The only guy worse. No, not the only guy. The worst version of that stat you were bringing out with Bo Nix. So his
missed yards.
Yeah, but his is the rate. He's got the worst rate. You did it again. His is the worst rate of misses of any quarterback in the NFL. The number of yards he's left on the table with those misses is nowhere near as bad as Bo Nix, but he's missing at a worse rate than anybody else.
Keep the plug away from me over here. Keep the plug away. And then you get the Colts offense, right? They turned the ball over 5 times, 6 times?
6 turnovers.
6, but what does that include that's the punt, Muff?
Probably, yeah.
So you got Jones throwing 3 interceptions, strip sacks. Was that just the Steelers and them playing their game, or can the Colts get back on track here? The Falcons' defense has not been the same without Divine Diablo. They made a couple big plays last week. They did get an interception on Drake May. They had the strip sack with the 2 rookies getting involved there. But the Falcons not creating as much havoc as they were earlier in the year, a couple weeks removed from losing to the Dolphins in that offense. So I think the Colts should have the advantage there.
Yeah, I mean, anytime a team turns over the ball that many times, you assume that's probably not happening 2 weeks in a row. So, if they go back to just turning the ball over not at all, or even just a couple of times, you would assume they're in a far better situation in this game than coughing it up 6 times. I would assume this offense bounces back because it's too good not to. But, we have seen this Falcons defense really throttle good offenses. Like, they haven't just done it against bad teams or they've been inconsistent, but they have shown up at times and absolutely destroyed teams.
A huge game. Obviously, the Colts are trying to – it's not a conference game, but the Colts are trying to keep up with the top of the AFC. Them, Broncos, Patriots are all sitting here at 7-2. And the Falcons, they don't have much more margin for error here.
Right.
Once promising, lost a couple close games, but also just the most confusing team in the NFL, right? They wrecked the Bills on Monday Night Football. They got wrecked by the Panthers 31-0, and so didn't know really what to make. I think the Dolphins game, though, was just a huge turning point. They were, the Falcons were very competitive against the Patriots last week. They were a missed extra point away from being tied with a couple minutes left in the fourth quarter. So it's not like, 3-5 sometimes you're like 3-5 or 7-2. It's a big mismatch. Like, the Falcons any week can be really competitive.
Yeah.
And you just don't know what you're going to get from them on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, they really are, I think, the most confusing team in the NFL. When they are on, they look phenomenal. And when they're not, they look terrible. And there's very little reason why each happens. There's nothing you can point to that says, even in hindsight, this is the thing that should have alerted us to the fact that this would be a bad performance. It just seems random.
Yeah. Jalen Walker creating some big plays on the defensive side for the Falcons last week. They're going to need that. If they can force some of the turnovers, if turnovers become an issue for the Colts in the coming weeks, then, things change. And then you get, the Daniel Jones discussion really quick. I think he's had a very good season. I still don't think you're going to say, hey, he's going to be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. The production could end up there, but I think that's a whole scheme thing. At some point, you do have to trust him. And, was last week a sign of things to come or just a blip, right? Quarterbacks have bad games. It was a bad one for Jones. Will he be able to bounce back from that?
Yeah, really for the Colts overall. This is their chance to show that they're not, that they are for real, which I think people had basically assumed they were up until they got wrecked by Pittsburgh. And now it's like, well, are they really? Or did they just have a run and now they've got to show that they are a genuinely elite contender? Daniel Jones only ranks 12th in PFF grade. that PFF grade is not a million miles away from what he's done previously with the Giants.
It's sixth in EPA, right? So that same Jordan Love discussion I'm talking about.
It's sixth in EPA. It's second in success rate. It's second in non-play action EPA. Like, there's a bunch of different ways where it looks a lot better than that. But he's now settling into this world where it's basically playing, on a throw-by-throw basis. You can at least argue that he's playing in a similar vein than he's played previously. It's just that everything around him is better, and that's why it's looking so much better. And this is not necessarily a bad thing, by the way. Like, this, if that happens, that's fine. Like, Daniel Jones was capable of solid quarterback play, and if you improved everything around him, solid quarterback play plus elite receiver, elite running back, good offensive line, elite coaching equals one of the better offenses in the NFL. So that's okay for that to be the case. But it is kind of interesting that this guy, we were talking about for a couple of weeks, MVP was in the conversation. If actually he just settles into, he's still Daniel Jones. It's just that everything else is good.
All right, man. It should be a fun one. 9:30 a.m. from Germany. Colts favored by 6.5 here. Where are you going to go?
I'm going to bet on them to bounce back. Plus, I can't possibly bet on Atlanta because I don't understand them. So
I know. My misunderstanding of Atlanta is them keeping it close here.
Right.
I would say. So I'll take the Falcons.
I'm going to bet on the Colts to win and cover a fairly significant line in Germany.
Especially in Germany. Outdoors. Got to go the outdoor factor here for Indy. So, yeah, I'll take Atlanta. Harry's going to take Indy to win and cover.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video.
Check the Mic is live Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, so be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss a video.
You heard the man. Subscribe.